This segment of the news is brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. It would be disingenuous to suggest that the blame or responsibility for the price we are paying today can only be attributed to the current administration. Those are the words of Democratic National Alliance leader Arinthia Komolafe, who's the latest to comment on the government's $600 million bond offering secured at an interest rate of 8.95%. Mrs. Komolafe says the proverbial chickens have simply come home to roost following years of fiscal mismanagement.
It is clear that the foreign currency borrowing is designed to shore up our reserves at a time when there is little to no inflow of foreign currency from tourism or foreign direct investments. We are simply buying time and hoping for an economic rebound.
Mrs. Komolafe says the COVID-19 pandemic has dealt a serious blow to the economies across the globe, and the Bahamas has not been spared. She adds that due to the heavy reliance on tourism, the economy has been disproportionately impacted, and says the pandemic, preceded by a devastating hurricane, which hit the islands that are the second and third highest contributors to our gross domestic product, it would be naive to ignore these realities. Mrs. Komolafe says the highest interest rate on this bond offering is not due solely to these extraordinary events. She notes that lenders and investors consider creditworthiness and ability to repay in deciding their actions, as well as cost of capital.
The Bahamas was subject to 3 credit downgrades under the Free National Movement administration between 2007 and 2012. and 4 credit downgrades under the Progressive Liberal Party administration between 2012 and 2017. The current administration has presided over multiple downgrades. Under the recent PLP administration, Standard & Poor's downgraded our credit rating to junk status, and Moody's downgraded our rating to junk status under this current administration. This is exacerbated by the projected shrinking of our GDP by 15 to 20% and a cut in growth forecast for 2021.
The Democratic National Alliance urges the government to work diligently and with a sense of urgency to develop a viable economic growth plan. In news from the Magistrates Court, a Bahamian fugitive apprehended in the United States was placed before the Magistrates Court today. 38-year-old Jermaine Scott, who stood before Deputy Chief Magistrate Andrew Forbes, is alleged to have taken the life of Alejandro Bain on April 20th, 2013. Scott was on the run in the United States before being captured by U.S. authorities and deported. He was remanded to the Bahamas Department of Corrections and returns to court on December 3rd for presentation of a voluntary bill of indictment. In crime news, a police-involved shooting earlier this morning leaves one man in hospital nursing injuries and a second suspect being hunted by police. Police shot an armed suspect shortly after 4 a.m. in Kennedy subdivision after he and another man led police on a high-speed chase. Police say officers were responding to reports of a silver vehicle with 2 occupants moving about in the community of Kennedy subdivision, acting in a suspicious manner. Officers from the mobile division spotted a vehicle fitting the description. The driver was beckoned to stop but failed to do so. A chase ensued, which led the officers and suspects to a dead end on Faith Deliverance Way, where the vehicle came to a stop. The driver exited the vehicle armed with a firearm and pointed it in the direction of the officers. The officers, being cognizant of the imminent threat to their lives, produced their service weapon and discharged it in the direction of the suspects, injuring one. A second suspect made good his escape. Emergency medical services were called to the scene and transported the injured suspect to the hospital, where he is listed in serious but stable condition. The officers recovered a black and silver 9mm Smith & Wesson pistol containing 4 9mm unfired rounds of ammunition on the scene from the victim. Investigations into this matter continues. 13 Cuban nationals were transported to the capital after they were apprehended by the United States Coast Guard in the southwest Bahamas. In a release issued last evening, 9 Cuban nationals were discovered on Key Sal and another 4 were discovered near Anguilla Key. As part of the comprehensive maritime agreement between the U.S. and the Bahamas, the Cuban nationals, 11 males and 2 females, were transferred to HMBS LL Smith. The Cubans were brought to the capital late last night, where they were handed over to immigration officials for further processing. And despite the many challenges due to the COVID-19 pandemic, celebrations for National Youth Month will continue. Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, Anisha Roll, says all staple activities will be done on a virtual platform this year under the theme Youth Resilient, Youth Re-Engineered, and Youth Re-Emerged for Positive Change.
What is important for me as Minister of Culture is to ensure that we continue to promote and enhance and preserve Bahamian culture in the best way we can, notwithstanding COVID-19. We have a duty to do just that and to remind people in the years to come that there was a year, that was 2020. We encountered a pandemic, but that pandemic did not stop who we are, did not stop us telling the story of where we came from, and it did not stop us from where we're going.
Minister Rose says it is important for youth to be encouraged and celebrated. Thus, the Ministry of Youth will make sure to celebrate the hard work of young Bahamians.
We're actually having all of the activities, all of the staple activities, they're going to continue in a virtual platform. And so you're going to find that we're going to have a youth march in a virtual platform. There's a map, and you're going to see all of the youth as they log on. You're going to see them in Andros and Acklins and all of the islands. We're going to do that electronically.
Mrs. Roll is encouraging young Bahamians to stay focused on the things that are positive so that they may emerge from this pandemic better. You're watching JCN News. Stay with us.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.